Global travel has increased the spread of disease. Globalization related factors have increased travel, international trade, and worldwide communication have affected patterns of the spread of disease. Diet plays a very important role in chronic diseases such as cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. Healthcare tends to treat infectious diseases with vaccines, drugs, and other similar methods. However, the link between non communicable and communicable diseases may not be as dedicated as once thought. Rates for both types of diseases are rising in the countries of Africa, Asia, and other areas as well. The United States Department of State reports that non communicable diseases account for 7 out of every 10 deaths in the United States and 63% of deaths worldwide. Communicable diseases account for 19% of deaths across the globe. These conditions can impair the immune system, making us susceptible to other conditions and thus complicate how we approach illnesses. Globalization has had large effects on international travel with serious consequences for global health. Air travel has become affordable for more and more people around the world. This has led to a dramatic increase in the amount of global air travel. Improvements in aircraft technology that allows longer nonstop flights have contributed to the spread of communicable diseases. It is entirely possible that a person in the early stages of an infectious disease could be halfway around the world in 12 to 15 hours and thus function as a vector for that disease, aiding its spread perhaps into vulnerable non-immune populations. The recent epidemic of severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, is the best contemporary example of the rapid spread of a virulent viral pathogen through travel of infected humans. SARS was first recognized in February of 2003 in Vietnam, where cases of atypical pneumonia with an unknown cause began to appear. By the first week of May 2003, 30 countries on 6 continents had reported a total of more than 7,000 probable causes, with more than 500 deaths. Cruise ship travel has also increased dramatically, with nearly 7 million people in North America traveling by cruises annually. Although cruise ships are increasing in size and have become better designed, they are still largely populated. The average duration of stay on one of these ships is about 2 incubation periods, which range from 3 to 10 days, for the microorganisms responsible for emerging infectious diseases. These floating cities where people gather from all over the world for short periods of time represent a unique environment for disease transmission, amplification, and dispersal. Large tourist populations not only serve as a potential source for the rapid spread of disease, but are also very difficult to monitor. The travelers on board a cruise ship are at risk of contracting infectious diseases, and the people that they come into contact with when they leave the ship are also at risk. For example, the 1999 outbreak of the influenza A virus Sydney in Alaska, which affected about 30,000 people, was preceded by the introduction of an influenza A virus Sydney strain by a cruise ship the previous year. Another example is the global spread of antibiotic-resistant pneumococcus that was first identified in Spain in the 1980s and rapidly jumped to South Africa and the USA before spreading to all other parts of the world. Increased travel, international and worldwide, have affected patterns of the spread of disease of HIV, AIDS, and diabetes. HIV/AIDS affects every country in the world, and many infection rates are increasing rapidly. Nearly three-quarters of persons living with HIV/AIDS are in sub-Saharan Africa. Of the 3.1 million people who died of HIV/AIDS in 2002, 2.4 million were in sub-Saharan Africa. The disease has already orphaned 12 million children in Africa, and that number could grow to a staggering 40 million by 2010. The rapid spread of HIV/AIDS is linked with globalization, which makes it easier for people to travel and may promote some risk behaviors. Vectors are usually introduced into new areas by vehicles used to transport people or commodities, such as airplanes, or by commodities that are being transferred. It has been demonstrated experimentally that a number of different disease vectors can survive in the wheel wells of jet aircraft at high altitudes for long intercontinental flights. Mosquitoes also hitchhike on used car tires that are being transported for retreading. For example, the Asian tiger mosquito, a dengue virus vector, was introduced to the North American continent on rubber tires shipped to Houston. The United States-Mexico border is a dumping ground for used tires and its imported breeding site for mosquitoes. Animal importations are another potential source. Each year, many United States ports of entry receive millions of animal importations from countries where a variety of diseases are an endemic. In a single year, there was more than 2.8 million international animal importations into New York City. Most of these were amphibians and birds. In 1996, the Port of Miami received more than 30 million animal imports, and most of which were fish and aquatic. The increased vector movement may be just as important as increased human movement in contributing to the global spread of infectious diseases. There's perhaps no better illustration at this point than the global spread of the Aedes aegypti and the worldwide resurgence of dengue as described above. The same mosquito has also been responsible for yellow fever outbreaks worldwide. Endemic zones include every country in South America except for Brazil and more than half of the countries in Africa.